Camera speed. Playback.
Welcome to A Social Place from Ammolite Studios and Emil Nava, which is me. I'm a music video director, filmmaker, been in the game since I was 17, and along the way I've worked with some of the most amazing talents in the whole world. In our first ever season of A Social Place, I've invited some of my fellow creatives to join me in sharing their stories of how they found their way into the industry. Welcome to A Social Place. Ganna Bogdan. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So glad to have you on. We speak about you quite a lot on the podcast because we wanted to just basically start this so we can just talk to like amazing creatives about the way they do it. You know, I think on my social media or whatever, I just get so many questions of like, oh, how do you get into it? What do you do? How, like, you know, all these just, it feels like so many kind of kids nowadays, they want to know like how you can do it, right? And I feel that you've got quite a amazing story, right, of how you got here today. Tell us a bit about Ganna. Give us a little narrative of how you got here.
It's actually a very interesting story. What brought me to LA is my modeling. And it was the year when I actually didn't want to do modeling anymore. I was like, I kind of over it. And I was working in Ukraine as a model agent. I was like 18 years old. I was scouting these young models. I was teaching them how to walk because I was working as a model since I was 14. I went to Paris, Milan, and it didn't really work. Everybody were always complaining about my height, my weight. I was like, oh, this is so stupid. I don't like that. And you don't really make money. And then I was working at this model agency. And this year I just got in such a good shape. I was like doing a lot of sports, still figure skating. And then my friend who was working at the agency, he's like, you know, you should come to LA. I was like, what? He's like, there is a modeling industry developing there, like e-com. And that's like the beginning of the whole e-com internet stuff. He's like, your personality, everything, you're going to work so well there. You should try it. I was like, really? Let's do it. And he just filmed a video of me boxing in the alley. I was like pretending I'm boxing, like shadow boxing. And I was like, kind of like, hey, I'm Ganna, this is me. And like, you know, I want to come to LA. And like all agencies wanted me. And I just picked one that I liked. And I came here and I was like, oh, wow, I'm in LA.
And you were 18?
Crazy. I was 18, yeah.
Wow.
So that was a very interesting move for me. And also like the fact that at that time, I studied political science in university. And I had to choose either going to LA or continue studying. So I just chose to come to LA because politics, I was like, I don't see myself as a politician because it's just such an unstable place to be. And I was like, maybe I should go and explore somewhere else. What else can I do? So
where were you living when you got here and stuff?
It was really rough. I lived in a model apartment for about 2 years.
Wow, yeah, I've heard these are crazy.
There's all these crazy stories, which I think people don't know. And this is kind of what I'm trying to educate young models and talking to a lot of my Ukrainian friends who want to start modeling and move. Because agencies here, they don't tell you that you have to build credit history in order to rent apartment.
Yeah.
You have to pay your taxes. A lot of girls...
Social security number, all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they give you a model apartment that usually is very shitty. It's like a bunk bed that you pay $800. It's like 11 years ago. It's like a lot of money for a bunk bed in Beechwood. You live as like 6 people with 1 bathroom. You work so hard.
And you don't know any of these people,
You don't know any of those people. You don't know anyone. Good if you know English. That saved me a lot, you know. But that was the time even before Uber. So you have to like pay for the driver. That's like $1,500 a month. Yeah. So you're just stuck. And you can't even have your own place because they can't rent it to you because you don't have a credit history. So it took years for me to like...
Can't get a car, you can't do any of that
Exactly,
stuff.
like, but you know, I'm such a hustler. I always find ways to like rent cars. Like my first car in LA was a really funny story because I was not 25 yet, and so I couldn't go to all these rental places. So I found on this website a car, like a golden Mustang, and the owner was Igor. I'm like, okay, he's somewhere from where I'm from.
Igor.
Let me hit him up on a private message. I was like, here I am. I need a car. Let's meet up. He's like, how much do you have? I'm like, I can pay you some money. Let's figure it out when I meet you. I met him and I set up the deal. I was like, I rented this car and I was riding this golden Mustang.
I remember when I came here visiting, because they're actually quite cheap to rent, I remember back when I used to come here. And like they are fun.
Not with a guy Igor. I'm telling you that. $1,500 a month, that was a lot of money at that time. But I was working well as a model, so I was like, you know what, I can afford it.
So you were busy when you started, yeah.
Oh, I was really busy. I was
Yeah.
working so much. I was making good money because I was like really skinny, young 18-year-old with like a good energy. And I did a lot of like e-com clients and stuff. And yeah, that was like my beginning of doing like modeling and actually making money in order to buy things that I want. And like I bought my first cameras and stuff like that. And just started
So how did you kind of transition that like into directing and photography, or what kind of inspired that move?
Oh, it's always, honestly, since I remember myself, since I was like 6, like I always saw myself as like filming everything. It's like I was imagining I'm in a movie. I thought everything is like I'm getting filmed all the time. And like I would always create these scenarios and stuff. My parents like loved the idea that I wanted to be a photographer, doing videos, director. And they were the first ones who were giving me cameras. So I was just shooting stuff. My first gig was when I was 14. My sister was booking me for all her girlfriends' birthdays to take photos because I figured out how to use Photoshop. So I was photographing birthdays and make them all look really pretty. And I was making like $200 a night on like doing birthdays. So that was like my beginning of like shooting people.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I always wanted to do it. And like when I worked at the modeling agency in Ukraine, I did like tests for models and photographing everything. And then when I came to LA and got more money, I started buying more video cameras and upgrading my gear and started kind of like shooting my roommates. And I think the whole idea of like me becoming director was like, I was in a lot of sets, like video sets, and I was like, why it takes so long? I can do it better. I can do it faster. I can show this model better than anyone else because I had that my own like vision.
Your
and
own
also,
POV on it, yeah.
Yeah, and also as a model, I was like, sometimes the set is so long, and I'm like, why it takes so long? You could have done it in like an hour.
Yeah,
you just like you just don't know how to do it. Let me show you. So that was the beginning of my kind of like video director career, starting from like modeling.
What was that transition like? Like how was there a pivotal moment when you really felt like the move happened? I mean, you're still kind of doing both, right?
I'd still do everything,
Yeah,
as long as I could. I understood that modeling is not forever.
Yeah.
And I always tell my friends, girlfriends who model, I'm like, you're not going to be pretty forever. You just have to admit it. I mean, you're going to change. Clients going to change.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're going to do next. And, you have to know what is your passion outside of that. Because this is just like the beginning of your something,
Sure.
Unless you make like a groundbreaking career modeling, you still have to have something else. It's like every top model, they have something, some businesses, a brand, a clothing brand. Some go into like acting, some going somewhere, It was just a transition. I was like, what else can I do? And how can I capture this world around me? All these like beautiful people with different stories, and all the fashion that comes to me. So we just started filming all these videos, and then even like living in LA, like be friends with all the skaters and then girl skaters and all that, culture. And I was just filming all of them. And then my friend group was like kind of like these tomboy girls who like would go skateboard, go to like trampoline world, and we were all like models, but we were like sporty models. We like model a lot of streetwear. And I just started capturing our energy, and we started booking jobs as me directing my girlfriends. Everything I do is like, I learned myself first how to do everything. So then when I hire people, I know if they do job good or bad. It's like,
100%.
As a director, I know how to edit, I know how to make music, I know how to do this, I know how to style. The whole like production is basically would be just me. But then when I want to work and give this chance to other people and have a team, so like it gives me like better understanding who should I hire.
Yeah.
And like being multi kind of talented or doing a lot of things, I think it's this new vision for young generation. Is like, our like parents were always like, oh, you have to only do one thing, focus on one work.
Yeah, don't be a jack of all trades.
Don't be like, don't focus, like you have to focus on one thing. And I'm like, why? My life is just in this shape. Ghana is for this lifetime. I don't know if I'm going to be reborn again in Ghana form, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to take it to the top. I want to learn all of these things. And it doesn't matter how old I am. I can learn this backflip at 29, and who's going to stop me from this if I'm not scared to like probably break my back or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's just, been learning a lot of things and I think everybody has a talent to something, but you can't find it unless you try different things.
Definitely.
And some things are going to be challenging. Some things you try and be like, not for me. Even for editing right now is like that, for instance, that Afterpay commercial that we did recently, that last one, I basically edited all myself, and they kind of kept pretty much my edit because I wanted to show my editor like what do I mean, these shots and stuff. And then we had a really good guy on set who was editing real time. So me and him were just kind of together piecing it already on set. But for me, because I know how to edit, I was able to explain him and then edit myself. And then it was like a collaborative process. If I didn't know how to edit, I didn't know how to explain to him like these little details that I meant, like the transitions and everything.
Definitely.
So it's like you have to know the knowledge, you know.
I did love the transitions. I love the way the camera would move and find the new subjects. And just on that thing, I mean, I had this question coming up later, but I was thinking a lot about like the casting in that commercial and how amazing it was. And like, how do you kind of, being that you've come from modeling and you come from so many castings, understanding that process, like what's your process like now with casting for stuff you're directing?
For me, casting is like one of the main things, honestly, for each project. And I always try to find these like talent that fits particularly for this, like each role, you know? For instance, like it's all about the energy of people, how they carry themselves. And also like, I don't know, I like very particular about my casting. Like I always like, I can look at person, I can like, for instance, like I can look at some audition tape, right? And I'd be like, oh, it would be cool if she just have her like hair slicked back and this like makeup will make her look like the right character. But other people wouldn't see that because like, oh, she doesn't fit. But I was like, no, she does. We just have to do a little bit of adjustments to her look and then it will work. But then it's just like, I think it's like as a director, you have to see this like, you know, moments like in this whole batch of talent that's like presented to you.
Yeah.
This like one thing that you can find in them. Like we had this one guy, right, who was playing a boyfriend of hers, right? And we were like questioning who should we hire? Like, and then a client is like, oh, I don't know, he's a little bit too commercial looking. I'm like, wait. This guy has a great energy. He's funny. He's amazing. We just put a cool outfit for him. Trust me, he's going to look less commercial.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's try it. We put an outfit. He was great, you know, because he was just like feeling it. It was like a blue coat and he wasn't like this like kind of cheesy commercial look. He looked like a cool guy, like, you know, creative and
I think
stuff.
there's the same thing as well, even with looking at directors when like, I feel like sometimes I'll hear like a client will say like, oh, that director is like to this or to that, and I'm always like, no, but that's because they haven't been able to show you that side of themselves, right? Like, because you can only really show the things you make, but then it's like, oh, well, they can't shoot cars. It's like they can shoot cars, they just haven't shot the cars yet, you know, things like that.
Yeah, this was for me like the biggest journey with the commercial space because I've done a lot of music videos and my style is kind of like mixed media, like fast cuts. So I didn't have this like plain commercial look, you know, like these like, there's a certain way of commercial cuts, right? It's like has to be, you know, this like has to be a certain structure to it and stuff. And I was pitching for a lot of these like commercials and they wouldn't believe in me because I haven't shot a commercial. So they look at my portfolio and they're like, she's too weird. Her style of directing is too like fashion. And then this time I just sit down for this project and I wrote 56 pages of treatment with animatic video. I worked with my team that just made this animatic for me, and I put a whole page of style. I did such a details. I was like, just trust me, I could do that. And they did, and it came out amazing.
Well, that's one thing I'll say about you is you really do dedicate to the pitch, you know, and I think that like for people who are listening or whatever are trying to get into it, I think that like, and we don't learn this at school, right? It's not like you get taught how to pitch in school, but like being able to pitch your ideas and being able to be that detailed and thorough is really what wins you the job, right?
And it's a challenge because I've done projects when I'm like writing it and then kind of halfway I'm like, I'm tired. I'm just not going to do it all the way. And I'm like, okay, I just send it like this. And then I didn't win the pitch. And this pitch, I turned my phone off for like 2 days. I locked myself in my house and I'm like, I need to get this commercial and I'm going to get it. Let me just put all my work. And then I did it. I was like, oh, I actually could do a good pitch now that I put some work.
I think the pitching is harder than making it.
Oh, it's so much harder.
When you're making it, it's exciting, right? But when you're pitching, you're on your own. You sat at this laptop and you're like, how do I explain what I want? And then how do I show it?
Yeah, and you have to prioritize. Like, you really want it or you don't. If you really want it, put some work.
And so, you know, you do so many things. But break down the key pillars of Ganna. Like, what are your passions?
I'm just passionate about education and learning, honestly. It's like, for me, learning new things is like, gives me this like satisfaction for myself, like being good at something, you know, and like training your like memory and like your abilities. For me right now, like the core, like it's like sports, of course, figure skating. I came back to training.
You box as well, right?
Yeah, box, and it's like interesting because like it started with like me returning to figure skating, and got like really amazing coaches right now, and really got like a really good like a lot of elements are coming back to me.
Tell us a bit more about that, right? Because you were training at one point for the Winter Olympics, right?
Yeah, like here I had this idea of like just like what if I compete again or something like that.
Because you competed in the Ukraine, right?
I competed in Ukraine when I was really young, and then my mom didn't want me to compete, and then I just went to like ballet on ice because I was also like older. Like I always wanted to be a figure skater. Since I was like 4 years old, my dad put me on these skates in this local rink. I was like, I really love this. I want this. And he's like, oh, my mom's like, it's too dangerous. Don't, she doesn't need to go to like classes. So my dad would just bring me ice skating every weekend. And I just really loved it. I was like, I want to do this. I'm just telling you that. And he's like, okay, I'll get you a coach once a week. But then it just all lasted till I was like 11. And when I was 11, I really wanted to go to like professional figure skating school to like do it seriously. And then I found this coach and he told me I'm too old. And I was so pissed at this.
And how old were you then?
I was 11. And I was like, I cried. I remember I cried for weeks. I was like,
he told you were too old at 11.
Yeah. And I was just like, why? And I just couldn't understand why I'm too old. And like, yeah, I don't have my axle right now at 11 because I only skated like on weekends with this local coach, whatever. And I was so sad and I was crying. And my dad was like, you don't need to be an athlete. They don't make money. They just didn't believe that athletes can make a career. So I was like, whatever. And then I was just, I went to this coach that I had once a week lessons. I asked her, I was like, do you have a group? I want to be really training every day. I really love it. She's like, oh, I have ballet on ice, this group of girls, and you can come train with us. So I would come and like, we would perform at like hockey games, and we did our own local competitions. And it was really like, for me, it was like, I was like watching all these figure skating videos and I was so in it and I was really good for my age, but it's just like, I couldn't get access to this like professional level skaters, which is interesting how this life changed because right now, like when I skated till I was 15, right? And I was like really good. I did like these performances, but you don't really make money. You make like $200 for like a performance.
Yeah.
Which is like, it takes so much of your time and stuff. And when I was like offered modeling, they told me, it's like, oh, you shouldn't skate because you're too like muscular and the legs need to be skinnier. So I like was like quit skating, and I was really afraid to skate because I was like, okay, I need to make money modeling and I need to be super skinny. So stupid of me, but you know, it's kind of like gave me this opportunity to come to LA and all these places. And then when I returned at 24, I think, and I just like went skating because I was really sad that month and I was like going through some stuff, and I shipped my ice skates from Ukraine and I went skating. They got stolen 2 days later from my car. I was like even more sad. I was like, this sucks. I was like really like in a very depressive state. And then I went to buy really good ice skates and I went on ice. I was like, oh, this feels really good. Those are like better than mine. And I found this coach and we started training and I got so good. And my coach is like a really good coach. She was in Russian national team. And then I have another Ukrainian coach who was Ukrainian national champion. And those are like top people.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like in a whole professional figure skating community because I started like posting videos, my process. I got like my axles, my doubles. I'm getting really good right now. I'm getting even better than when I was younger. And now I'm like, I train with this like really legendary coach from Belarus, and like now I'm like all these figure skaters who like pro skaters. They all know me. We all hang out. They like, you know, it's like now I entered this community that I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And now it's not even about the going to like a competition again. Now it's like, okay, what can I do? What is this new project? So I want to make my own competition right now. That's like all these skaters, because there's so many rules in figure skating, and I want to make this competition that's like, oh, you can do backflip, you can do anything. You can just have to have your own style and kind of create my own thing, rather because I wasn't accepted to this traditional thing. So I'm like, I'm just going to make my own. So that's like right now my direction.
And how do you balance like training that much and that hard and kind of having a career?
It's all time management, honestly. Wake up earlier, go to bed at a certain time, you know. eat healthy and stuff. And what drives me to go skating every day is just because I really love doing that. It's almost like when I skate and train is my kind of like meditation in a weird way, because I challenge myself and I don't think about like other things. It's fully focusing me on just this one task, skating, and be better at this. And it gives me so much adrenaline when I'm landing this jump. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And to see my progress over these 2 years, it's very amazing. I was like, oh, I can really compete in a year if I like push a little bit harder. But recently, I think for the past few months since like the war started and everything, and all these challenges with competitions and I was like, oh, maybe maybe I don't want to go to like the Olympics how it is. Maybe I want to like do something else, like creating my own community of figure skaters, that their life doesn't evolve about just training for Olympics, but training to create your own thing, you know, like. And now there's a lot of skaters who like do their own movies and do things do classes. And it's fun to see this, like, now I'm training with these 12-year-old girls. And they like, last week they came to me, it's like, Ganna, I want to be you when I grow up. You're so cool because you do not just figure skating, do other things. And for them, because they only do figure skating, to see me being figure skater and do other things, they're like, oh, this is cool. I could be like that too. Because they feel really sad that they train only figure skating. Sometimes they get tired. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore, because they think they only can do that.
Yeah, the sport thing, like, it's like when if you're young and you want to take on sport, it's like they almost everyone makes you feel it's all or nothing, right?
Yeah, but then, you know, like now we have examples of you can do sport, but then also can do other things. Like Nathan Chen, who's Olympic champion, who just won Olympics, he's in Yale and studied at university and has a degree together with his insane athlete career, and he did both.
Like when you look at really successful, even like really big athletes, right? Like when you look at this new thing of like LeBron James has got like his production company, and like all these athletes now, they are having like brands or production, like, you know. I think that idea that people can do like more things is growing, which is exciting, really. Yeah, and it's exciting to see how, like, you know, when I talk to like athletes, like young athletes who are like figure skating is such a niche sport, and they like really see it just in a classical thing, and they always question like, am I gonna just make it? Because the competition is literally just 3 skaters winning from thousands of girls that are like skating, and I'm like, it doesn't matter if you win or not, but you go into history if you bring something unique, your own style, and create your own project. Even if you didn't make it to competition, you can open your own school. You can do like... Yeah, you can still have success.
You can create your own show, performance show. Mm-hmm. There's angles of that. So like athlete career is not just that one thing, you know, you can create from this something else.
So tell us, in the last few years, you've started doing music, huh?
Yeah, I started doing music, and this is like honestly, like my routine. When you asked me earlier about like my key points, what I do is like I wake up in the morning, I go skating, then I come home, I work on my computer on like some edits and stuff, and then I do music as my relief of all of those things that I'm just so tired physically, and I'm like kind of needed some source of inspiration. So I activate my other side of my brain is like doing music. Yeah. And it's like, it's such a different variety of things I do throughout my day. And it completes into this one thing that's like, oh, I'm satisfied.
So good. I mean, you're kind of answering it at the same time, but like we've been talking a lot about like just like body and mind and how important those things are, especially in this kind of, you know, new world, right? A lot of stressful things going on. Like, what do you do to like really... I mean, you've said it a lot today. Your morning routine is so important. Like, what advice do you give to people who are trying to manage, you know, all the things going on? And
you know what? I learned my mistakes when, for instance, I went a little too hard on like training, and I would not rest. Yeah. So I would like do almost too much, and then weekends I'm still doing things. Right now, I manage my time that. During the weekdays, I work, I do a lot of things. Saturday, Sunday, I don't touch anything. I don't go skating. I don't do anything. Sometimes I just simply lay in bed doing absolutely nothing. Yeah. And it's really hard for people to do absolutely nothing, I learned, because you always like, oh, I'm having fun, I want to go there, I want to go there. Yeah. Staying home in bed is important. Just really fully just turn off your brain.
I agree. I've been putting my phone, I put my phone on like focus mode now. No
same.
one can, because it's just, I think with the activity of the body, but then the mind as well. It's like social media, and it feels like constant information, and just, I don't know, it's like physical and mental activity constantly. So I know what you mean.
On Sundays, I even tell people, it's like, don't even hit me up about work, anything. Sunday, I'm not going to respond to your text. I'll respond Monday. And that's what I watched this documentary, the series Explained on Netflix.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about focus. And they're saying, because we're so why do we respond so fast on their phone? Because we're so I need to respond so fast. Because before, when people had mail, you have to ship the mail and then you have response within 100%. A week. And now, because you have such a fast information receiving, I need to do it right now. And then it drains your brain because you're so stuck of rushing to respond, rather than be you know what? Today is my day off.
Yeah.
Because everything's going to wait.
Just wanted to kind of talk about your documentary that you're making about your ice skating in your journey.
Yeah, I started doing this documentary almost 2-3 years ago when I started training again. And honestly, the subject is always a little bit changing, because that's how it goes with documentaries. Sure. It starts with one thing, then it goes to another thing, and now it's kind of in a process of where is it going next? So I keep filming, I keep figuring it out. And it's for me, it was the whole idea of, it's this example is I want to, dream to go to Olympics, but it's not even about the Olympics. It's I want to be able to fight age. I want to be able to prove the point to people that you can be really good at what you do at any age, and you can be almost Olympic level, you can be that level if you really wanted to. And for me, this whole documentary is almost a test on myself. I know you can learn things at any time. It just depends how much work you put in. Sure. So it's almost example of that. So no matter what you do, figure skating, music, boxing, even if you want to be a lawyer, you can be at any age a lawyer. Just get some education and be good at it.
Yeah, it's so interesting you talk about that, because we've chatted a bit on the podcast about age and just be in our industry, right? You're not. I'm not the cool young director anymore. It's being the cool kid in the room is powerful. And obviously you have a certain style, but then that style changes. How do you feel about kind of the age limit in even the creative space, as a director and as a creative?
Man, it's crazy how society made us think about age so much. How there is boundaries of age. And if you really look at the history, people live much longer lives.
Twice as long.
I have so many friends who are in their 40s. They look amazing.
Yeah.
They do amazing things. Some of them become boxers, box or something. Some of them completely change their lives.
Some of my friends are around 40 are fitter than they were in their 20s, and that idea that you're fitter in your 40s. If someone said that 50 years ago, they'd be like, "What are you talking?" It's it has changed.
It's right now because we have access to so many things, compared to the past generations when you didn't have internet. You couldn't really reach certain things, and there's a lot of those classical rules is you can't go to the school because there's an age limit, right? Now I can get the same education no matter of the age limit somewhere else that just provides you the information you need. And it's I think people always chasing these new young talents, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But there have to be some people that break this stereotype.
Where do you feel the industry's kind of going, and where do you hope for it to go?
I think right now is a very kind of interesting.
It's a weird time.
It's a weird time.
Yeah, it's a weird time. I think post-COVID, the world, everything that's going on.
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's a very weird time, and the COVID was almost it was a certain industry had a certain structure to it. Then COVID happened, and everybody got confused. Where are they going? So they adjusted to COVID.
Yeah.
And then COVID ended, and there's okay, now we're back to life, but it's not the same anymore. Yeah. Not the same budgets, not the same music direction. TikTok kind of changed the whole thing.
Yeah, 100%.
But now I feel what we can do, we can't be so against the changes. We need to really see, even like TikTok, you know, like you can't just be like, I hate TikTok so much. Just think about Instagram started with a platform that posted food, became a portfolio for everyone else of businesses and everything. Yeah. TikTok started as funny videos and almost like a Vine. Now it transforms into more than just that. Now there's news channels, there's music video platforms. I think we have to understand what's going on in the world and see what we can bring to this new thing, you know, what it could be me, but within this. Because a lot of artists and directors, they lose themselves in it, so they start following the trends, and they kind of like, I hate this because this is not me. Okay, but no one asked you to be this. You can be yourself.
100%.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time, and of course, like, people get upset, like, I don't get enough, like, followers, I don't get enough likes. I'm like, just wait, this is so new. This is so growing. There's so many things we still can do, and who knows what's going to be the next thing. Right now, when I go on YouTube, and I do research new music videos, it's really hard to find someone like small in there unless you really know them. Just like on YouTube algorithms.
Yeah, you can't just find it. No,
you can't
you're
really
right.
find it. And people spend a lot of time and work shooting them, and I don't see that. You know, like, I want to see what other people do. Unless I follow them on Instagram and go deep, you know? I wish, like, I wanted to, like, you know, if on Netflix there's a channel that just curates 20 music videos of the week. The future is curated things, like curated playlist. Like, for instance, how I find like music right now, like, I don't go on like Spotify New Music Friday. It's always like hit or miss. But I go to like certain people I follow that create their own playlist, and they find like small artists that like hidden in there.
Yeah, that's
and I was
such
like,
a good point.
Because a lot of the stuff that's like, it's created by like big labels, and they push certain artists, and it doesn't even matter if the song is good. I was like, there's also a lot of songs that are like average. They're just putting music out.
Yeah.
But I want to know this, like, what's this new talent? Let me find it.
And I guess, Liz, my final question, you know, I ask it to every guest is like, you know, if you could give some advice to someone watching, you know, who's not in the industry and who's really trying to kind of get into it, what would your advice be?
There's a few advices. Make sure you sleep. Sleep is important. Sleep is where you're regaining your inspiration, motivation for the next day. And people forget about sleep, you know? They're like, I can sleep 2 hours, I'll be fine. No, you won't. You're going to burn out. So make sure you sleep.
Get the sleep in.
Get the sleeping. And what can I advise to everyone who wants to start anything is be able to plan it and kind of, you know, structure it. Like, when you have an idea, you have to write it down. What do you want to do? And then you can find, like, once you're writing it down, you can see, like, oh, I need this for that. I need this for that. How can you, like, for me, what helps me as a creative is, like, I sit on my computer and, like, I do a plan, and then I just kind of make it a smooth board.
And then kind of execute the plan.
I make a plan for, like, a year, you know, like, where I want to be.
That is great advice.
What project I want to be. It's not like something like, oh, I want to do this. Write it down visually, you know, make a picture to it. Kind of like, you know, so it's like right in front of you. Writing down is very important. You can have so many ideas that you talk to your friends about, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then it never really happens because you forget about them.
I know. I always think that about, like, when people say, like, you know, manifest your things, and then people are like, oh, what's manifestation, or that. But I always think about it like, you have to think about, like, moving your hand. You have to think about, like, I'm going to walk over there.
Yeah.
So the same way you have to think, like, I'm going to go and make that thing. I'm going to go make that music video, you know?
Yeah.
Like you say, if you write it down and you set the goal, I think that is great advice.
And focus on, like, you can do a lot of things, but there's one that's priority at that particular time. For instance, this month I prioritize, like, music. I want to work on these songs, and, like, next month I want to direct something, and I prioritize that. So I think it's like doing these, like, you know, the projects you want to do, and then, like, what is more important for me right now? What I can do and make me happy, and how doable it is, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that what a lot of young people, creative people, lacking is a structure and discipline of their creative thought process, you know? Like, discipline, I mean, like, when you want to work on something, sit down on your desk and really work on that, rather than just having it and then being really angry at this world not giving you this, you know? And you can always find ways to execute it nowadays, you know, he's like, oh, I need this dancer. Go on social media, find the dancer, invite it to the casting, figure out how you're going to pay the dancer. Boom, done. You can find anyone you want right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ganna.